Hello, and welcome to the Managing Stress Workshop. We'd like to start off by introducing ourselves. My name is Mara Quidis. I'm the Education Coordinator with the Finger Lakes Caregiver Institute at Lifespan.
And my name is Eve Moses, and I'm the Care Coordinator for the Finger Lakes Caregiver Institute Respite Program and the Coordinator of Monroe County Caregiver Resource Center. Welcome.
So today's presentation is based upon the Powerful Tools for Caregivers program, which is a self-care education program for family caregivers. There are over 4,500 class leaders across the United States, Canada, and Korea. The class curriculum is available in English, French, Korean, and Spanish. Since the program's inception, a great deal of research, evaluation, and revision has been done to ensure this program's continued value and success. The 6-week Powerful Tools for Caregivers class has been shown to have many positive impacts on caregiver health for a diverse group of caregivers. This includes people who are living in rural areas, ethnic minorities, adult children of aging parents, well spouses and partners, caregivers at different stages in their caregiving role, living situations, financial and educational backgrounds. So data from class participant evaluations has proven that the program improves self-care behaviors, so increased exercise, use of relaxation techniques, attending medical checkups. Also, it improves management of emotions, so reduced guilt, anger, and depression, very common difficult emotions that are experienced by caregivers. It also improves self-efficacy, so that's an increased confidence in coping with caregiving demands. And then lastly, it improves the use of community resources and people's confidence in utilizing what's available and knowing what's available. The program uses the script to ensure that it maintains the same positive outcomes for family caregivers across the United States and across the other countries that it's available. So you'll also notice that in today's presentation, Eve and I are using a script because this Managing Stress for Caregivers curriculum is part of the Powerful Tools for Caregivers program. It covers a lot of what's taught in Class 2, which focuses on managing stress. So we will be using the scripts, but we'll do our best to make it as dynamic as possible. And you'll notice that we're not constantly just reading off of a piece of paper. So today we're going to be focusing on the tools that will help you to manage the daily stresses and challenges that you face as a caregiver. So here is our agenda. We just did the Powerful Tools for Caregivers overview. Now we're going to talk about the difference between acute illness versus chronic illness. Then we'll talk about the 4 steps in managing stress, identifying signs and sources of stress, taking action, stress reducers, making an action plan, and then we'll finish with a relaxation exercise and close. So an important part of the Powerful Tools for Caregivers program is sharing with and learning from each other. And you'll notice this is a pre-recorded session, so we don't have the opportunity to all be talking with each other and hear about different people's situations, but you will see that Lifespan is offering different opportunities for caregivers to connect, and we'll talk about that more at the end of this presentation.
Right. Okay, so caregiving to someone with a chronic illness requires a different mindset than caring for someone with an acute illness. With an acute illness, such as the flu or pneumonia or appendicitis, we often set aside our lives for a short period of time until the illness passes. And this is what you need to know is that this approach is not effective when a family member has a chronic condition, such as a stroke or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. So we're going to take a look at this chart, and we're going to talk a little bit about why the differences make such a big impact and why you need to handle this differently when you're caring for someone with an acute illness versus a chronic. So you need to keep in mind that with an acute illness, there are cures available. There are treatments available to heal and restore the person's health back to normal. But with a chronic condition, there is no cure. So no treatment is going to take the illness away. However, in many cases, a lot can be done to manage a chronic illness. And at times, the illness may be under control, but at other times, it may not. An acute illness is short-term, and it has a short-term impact on our life as well as on the care receiver's life. So things may change for a few days, and then the problem goes away. But with a chronic illness, it has an ongoing impact, and problems don't go away. As the chronic illness progresses, the caregiving responsibilities often increase. With an acute illness, our lives return back to normal. The person's health and everyone's life returns to normal. But with a chronic condition, the normal changes. So a chronic illness often means a permanent change from what was. Both the care receiver and the caregiver have to make adaptations to their lives. With an acute illness, you're often dealing with certainty regarding the future. So the acute illness is predictable, in other words. But with a chronic condition, there's a lot of uncertainty about the future. And in a chronic illness, it can lack the outcome predictable patterns or long-term general effects may be very hard to predict. So there's a lot of uncertainty about what the next day is going to bring. So as this chart shows, an acute illness is not the same as a chronic illness. Therefore, using identical caregiving approaches, for example, setting aside our lives when our family member has a chronic illness, is not appropriate. In fact, it can be damaging. Being a caregiver for the long haul of a chronic illness requires that we take care of ourselves. So usually we cannot stop the impact of a chronic illness on a family member. However, we are responsible for our own self-care. It's critical that we don't become a second victim of our family member's illness. And it's sad when a person says, my mother was the ill person, but her illness destroyed my father. It's not selfish to think about your own health and well-being as caregivers. And when you take care of yourself, everyone benefits.
So stress is the reaction we experience when the demands placed on us are too much to cope with. While some stress can be positive, too much stress can affect us in negative ways, both physically and emotionally. So one of the most important things we can do, both for ourselves and for our friend or family member, is to take care of ourselves. It's important that you thrive and not just survive. An important tool for thriving is being able to recognize and manage stress. So you'll see on this slide the 4 steps. Number 1, recognize warning signs early. It's easier and more helpful to make changes early to reduce stress. If we wait until we're very overwhelmed, it then takes longer to recover from the effects of stress. 2, identify sources of stress. We must ask ourselves, what is causing stress for me? What causes the most stress for each of us might be quite different. 3, identify what you can change and what you cannot change. This involves asking the following questions. What do I have some control over? What can I change? Even a small change can sometimes make a really big difference. However, if we try to change things over which we have no control, we're only going to increase our stress and frustration. 4, take action. Taking action to reduce stress can give us a sense of control. So the message about stress is don't ignore it and do address it. So taking these 4 steps is critical to self-care, and both the caregiver and the care receiver benefit. We're more likely to be patient and loving when we take good care of ourselves. So now we're gonna jump into the first two steps and identify our signs and sources of stress, and then discuss some more tools for managing our stress. So it's important to recognize and manage our stress, and if we don't, it can be hard to do anything else.
Okay, so each one of us has warning signs that tell us we're experiencing stress. If we identify and respond to our early warning signs, we can prevent the destructive pattern or the impact of stress. Too often, however, we do not recognize the early warning signs, or we ignore the early warning signs. And as you look at what is stressful in giving and receiving care, it can be quite different for each one of us. So this session is recorded. Therefore, we're not able to do a brainstorm because it's just Mara and I. So what I want to do is, normally we would brainstorm our warning signs and sources of stress. I would like to list some of those warning signs and sources. And Mara, there we go, beautiful. Mara's got this under control. So your first warning sign might be that you become forgetful, or you can't concentrate. Maybe you get a little bit more irritable, or you eat more or less. Some people get sick. Some people cry easily. Some can't cry at all. They just don't care, or they become apathetic. Another warning sign might be a physical warning sign, headaches, high blood pressure, and some people just become very resentful and it festers, okay? So these are warning signs. Some of the sources of stress might be having too much to do. Maybe finances is an issue for you or your family. Repeated questions coming from the care receiver. The COVID-19 pandemic has been very stressful for all of us, caregiving or not. Maybe when your spouse or your loved one says, I want to go home, but you are home. It might be family disagreements. Another source of stress could be lack of sleep. Sleep is so very important, and when you don't get it, it just is like a big ball of snow that just keeps getting larger and larger. Unreasonable expectations could be a source of stress. Sometimes those expectations that we put on ourselves. Another source of stress could be interruptions or lack of help from siblings or other family members. So as you can see, the warning signs vary, as do the sources of stress. And hopefully, you know, as you're looking through this, you can pick some out that resonate particularly with you. Okay. So remember, the earlier that we identify our warning signs, the better. Some of these signs may not be our earliest warning signs. They may be the signs that finally catch our attention. And it's important that we pay attention to our earliest warning signs and then try to respond to them, because they're not going to just go away if you ignore it. Okay, the next slide.
Mm-hmm. One moment. There we go.
Okay, so warning signs of stress can be physical, emotional, or mental. If we neglect our warning signs, problems will develop. Results of neglecting stress include increased health problems. So stress affects the immune system, and it increases our vulnerability to illness, and it can worsen existing medical problems. Results of neglecting stress can also be with our disrupted relationships. So stress can cause a breakdown in communication with others. Stress-related emotions, such as irritability and anger, often adversely affect our relationships. Burnout. Burnout is a total physical and emotional exhaustion, a feeling of being totally overwhelmed and not being able to cope. Depression, and that can range from just feeling down to feeling hopeless. In the 5th class of Powerful Tools for Caregivers, 6-week course, we talk a lot about emotions and a great deal about depression in particular. And stress can decrease our ability to give good care and to give care in a loving way. So if you ignore stress, it will fester, it won't go away, it will just get worse. Stress is the fact of caregiving. We can't eliminate it and we can't stop it from occurring, but we can manage it. It's important to manage our stress so it doesn't control us. We have completed the first two steps of managing stress. First, identifying the warning signs, and second, identifying the sources of stress. The third important step in managing stress is to clearly identify what you can change and what you cannot. We only increase our stress and frustration if we try to change things over which we have no control. So have you ever said, if only they would change? Okay, it's important to remember that we can only change ourselves. We cannot change another person, whether it be the person with the illness or family members, other family members that you're hoping will help a little bit more. The only person that we have control over is ourselves. And sometimes this means that we need to let go. We're now going to talk about some tools for reducing stress. We'll consider what we can do so that we can better tolerate the unchangeable stresses in our lives. So the fourth step in dealing with stress is to take action. We gain nothing if we only identify the warning signs and the sources of stress. We must actively do something to reduce our stress. Unfortunately, it's easy to get tangled up in some of the barriers, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Barriers to taking action to reduce stress frequently include not being able to think of what to do. So in just a few minutes, we're going to brainstorm some things that you can do to reduce stress. Secondly, maybe we're picking an activity that's too difficult. So in other words, selecting a stress-reducing activity that is too involved or too awkward or too time-consuming, or you don't really want to do it. And lastly, postponing stress reduction. For example, this occurs when a stress reduction activity is planned too far into the future. For example, if you need to get away, perhaps planning a vacation 3 months from now is a little too far out. Maybe what you need to think about is something a little smaller that you can do over the weekend that will help to relieve some of your stress. And it's a positive step, whether it's 3 months down the road or whether it's next weekend, okay? But if you need to take a break now, 3 months down the road is too long. So remember, it's important to recognize and then remove some of the barriers to your taking action to relieve stress. So stress reducers are activities that help us relax. They're soothing and pleasurable. They make us feel good, and we can build it into our lives on a regular basis. A stress reducer doesn't have to be something that's elaborate. Just a few minutes a day doing something Just a few minutes a day doing something relaxing and enjoyable can help us deal better with stress. So I want you to take a minute and answer this question. What have you done successfully to reduce stress? This could be something that you do now or that you've done in the past and you haven't done recently because you've been too busy. Now, normally we'd have you put your answers in a chat box, but again, since we've pre-recorded this, I want you to just think about some things that you could do to reduce stress. Mara, do you have a slide with the answers?
All right. So you've thought a little bit about what are some of the things that you've done successfully in the past to reduce your stress, or maybe something that you could do now. And now here's a list of what other folks have come up with when asked this question.
Okay. So take a walk. Find some humor in the situation. Often because things are so serious for us, we have trouble finding humor, but you have to remember to have a little bit of a sense of humor. Do something that you like to do, even if it's just for a few moments. Listen to music, Escape in a mystery book? Call a friend. Say no when somebody asks you to do just one more thing. It's okay to say no. Give yourself permission. Have a cup of tea.
Have a cup of tea.
Mara and I are having a cup of tea right now. Watch a good movie. Hopefully it's something that's uplifting or funny. Deep breathing exercises. We are going to do a relaxation exercise at the end of this session that will hopefully give you a little bit more of an idea of what you could do, or just simply taking in some deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. We often say, smell the roses, blow out the candles. Exercise, whether it's in your living room doing a little dance, or whether it's taking that walk or picking up some barbells, anything could be exercise. Take a nice warm shower or a bath. Treat yourself. Do something that's a little different. Get out of your norm. So these are some ideas of what you can do. And we will also have an attachment of many more ideas that will be included at the end of this recording.
Yeah, there are a handful of handouts that we have, and you'll see our contact info will be at the end of this, and feel free to just email me, and I'm happy to send you all of the different handouts that go along with this.
Wonderful. Thanks. Thanks. Okay, so sometimes it's helpful to match our stress-reducing activity to the way that we respond to stress. So in other words, if your response to stress is mostly physical, like high blood pressure, digestive problems, headaches, pacing, you may want to try a physical relaxation activity like walking or swimming if you're able to, or other physical exercise, or maybe a massage or bubble bath or gardening. If you experience stress mostly in mental ways, for example, worrying a lot or having difficulty concentrating, you may want to try some mental relaxation activities such as meditation or listening to relaxing music or reading for pleasure. And if your style of responding to stress is both physical and mental, you may want to try an activity that involves both, like practicing yoga or Tai Chi. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information. Lifespan right now, while we're doing a lot of online programs because of the pandemic, has Tai Chi and exercise classes daily from 11 to 11:45 through Zoom, and you can reach that through the Lifespan website and join in. And if you don't want anybody to see you when you're in the chat, you can just put a little tab over the top of your computer and hide yourself, but do some of the exercises. Both Mara and I have been participating in these exercises, and it actually is very helpful. So free Tai Chi classes, what more could you ask for? Okay, so Mara had already mentioned that she will be sending via email, if you want, tools for reducing or relieving stress. So there's a lot of ways, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
A lot of ways to reduce stress. What's important is that you find what's pleasurable and what works for you. The little things that we do to relieve stress can make a big difference. So even if it's something very small, it's important to stop just for a little while and take care of that. Okay.
All right. So another thing that is very helpful in this last step of taking action is an action plan. It's an agreement or contract with yourself to do something that you want to do that will help you to reach a goal. So today we're going to make an action plan for something that will help us reduce stress and recharge our batteries. So a good action plan has several parts. One, it's something that you want to do. It's not something that you or someone else thinks you should do. Don't should on yourselves. Select something that will help you to feel better and to take better care of yourself. So this action plan is a want to do, not a should do. 2, an action plan is something that you can easily complete within 1 week. We want you to succeed, so it's important to be realistic about what you can do within the next week. Set yourself up for success. 3, should be behavior specific. So the more specific you can be about what you will do, the better. So, for example, if I just said, I'm going to take better care of myself, well, that's not very specific, is it? I don't really know what I mean by that. That's pretty general. So something more specific might be making an appointment for a physical checkup. At this point, that might need to be telehealth, but making an appointment, that's really important. Maybe it's walking 2 times a week, or asking someone to stay with your care receiver for a morning. Those are specific behaviors. And I know not all of that is super feasible right now during the pandemic, but good things to think about. 4, it answers the questions, what are you going to do? So for example, I will read a book for pleasure, or I will walk. How much are you gonna do? So maybe I'm gonna read 1 chapter, or I'm gonna walk for 2 blocks. When am I gonna do this? Maybe I'll read first thing in the morning before I get out of bed, or walk in the mid-afternoon when I know my care partner is sleeping. Then the last question to ask ourselves is how often? How often are you gonna do this activity? For example, I'm gonna do it 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it's better to commit to do something once, twice, or at most 3 times, and then exceed your action plan if you do it more often. But we ask that people don't say that they're going to do something every day, and then you only do it 6 of the 7 days, and then you're giving yourself a hard time because you didn't do it all the times. Instead, say you're going to do it once or twice, maybe 3 times, and then if you exceed that, awesome. So as we said before, we just want to set ourselves up for success. And this is a time of a lot of uncertainty and stress. So be gentle with ourselves and not put too high of pressure on ourselves. 5, confidence level. So this is how confident or certain you are that you're going to accomplish your entire action plan during the next week. So you rate your confidence on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being, oh my gosh, there's no way I can get this done, to 10, oh, I've got this in the bag. So remember, action plans are here to help you thrive while you're caregiving. So Eve and I are just going to share with you our action plan for the week. And so when people are doing an action plan, we ask you to say, I will, and then include the parts of the action plan that are on this chart we have up for you right now. So for me, I will I'm reading a book right now called Such a Fun Age. So I'm going to read 3 times a week, 1 chapter. And I'm gonna do this before I go to bed. And my confidence level is a 9 because this book is pretty good. I'm liking it. So I have a pretty high confidence level. And so that's what we're going to ask you to do. So Eve, what's your action plan for this week?
Okay, so thanks, Mara. I will participate in Lifespan's Tai Chi online classes, and I'm going to do it 2 times a week on Monday and on Friday from 11 to 11:45. And I'm going to say 2 times because if I happen to get stuck on Monday or Friday, I can always fill in on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday with that second time. So in my confidence level, because I've left it open a little bit, is a 9.5.
Wonderful. Thanks, Eve. Okay, so another handout we have is the My Action Plan worksheet, which, as I said before, my contact information will be at the end of this presentation, and you can email me and I can send you that. Putting an action plan in writing can really help us to remember, keep track of, and accomplish the agreements that we make with ourselves. So, if you have the time right now and a scrap piece of paper, you can answer these questions. And then also feel free to email me and I'll give you the form that we give to people in classes. All right.
Okay, so what we think and feel has a powerful effect on our mind. One of the things that we can do is to learn to use our mind to relax our body. This can help reduce stress, and one way to do this is through a technique called guided imagery. So guided imagery is like a guided daydream, where we picture ourselves in a peaceful, relaxing place. It can help us to experience deep relaxation. We will now do a guided imagery called a walk to the beach. If you feel uncomfortable with anything on the walk, picture yourself in a place that you find relaxing. So I want you to sit comfortably. Close your eyes if you'd like, and listen. It's time to relax now. For just a short time, let go of all the outside concerns. In this guided imagery exercise, prepare yourself for a summertime stroll to the beach. Imagine yourself walking barefoot down a sandy path. In the distance, you can hear the waves rumbling onto the beach. The soft sand feels slightly cool beneath your toes. The plants on each side of the path tickle your legs as you take this leisurely walk. As you get closer, the sound of the waves get louder. You can see the sun slowly beginning to set above. It's making the sky and a few clouds turn to pink and orange colors. As you continue down the path, you can see the water now. Its brilliant blue color is sparkling in the sunset. The calming ripples closest to the shore invite you to take a closer look. As you walk towards the water, leaving footprints behind, you start to feel the soft sand become more solid under your feet. It feels a little wet from the water near the shore. The edge of the water gleams with white foam. You notice a few seashells in the sand. You bend over to pick up one and see its perfect shape and pearly inside. With the warm water trickling between your toes, you look up and out across the water as far as you can see, realizing now how small we are in the vastness of the universe. Just a few feet from the water's edge sits an empty chair. And as you walk toward the chair, you can see small crabs sticking their heads out of the tiny holes in the sand and running away as you draw near. And after you take a seat in the chair, you're impressed by the harmony of the surroundings. The warmth of the summer air, the sweet smell of the water, your toes in the sand, your ears listening to the sound of waves, and your eyes watching the sunset over the water. A feeling of peace cascades over you. You take a deep breath to take in this more relaxing time. You sit here and rest a while, relaxed in the feeling that nothing else in the world matters at this very moment. This is a time of pure enjoyment just for you. Listen a while and relax some more. When you're ready, you begin to stand up, feeling the soft sand between your toes again, thankful that you've had this time to yourself. Remember that you can return to this place in your mind's eye whenever you want to. You begin to walk back along the sandy path that brought you to this peaceful place. You are grateful for this time of refreshment. Take a deep, cleansing breath, and then slowly exhale. And when you're ready, slowly begin to open your eyes. Hopefully, this helps you to feel more relaxed. And do any of you have your hands feeling a little bit warmer after doing this exercise? Guided imagery is just one way to increase relaxation response. You may feel not only more relaxed, but your hands and feet be warmer. Hello, puppy. The relaxation response also increases our circulation. You may want to practice guided imagery at home. So the guided imagery and progressive muscle relaxation exercise are available through a free download with Powerful Tools for Caregivers website. And you can learn more about Powerful Tools for Caregivers at this website. The classes help caregivers to take better care of themselves while caring for a friend or relative. And whether you provide care for a spouse, a partner, a parent, a friend, or a child with special needs at home or in a care facility, or whether it's down the block or miles away, yours is an important role. And the course is for family caregivers, no matter where you are. So the classes help to give you tools to reduce stress, improve your self-confidence, manage time and set goals, solve problems, better communicate your feelings with others. We talk about making tough decisions, and we locate helpful resources. The 6-week class series gives you the confidence and support to better care for your loved one and yourself. And as mentioned earlier, the classes are available in both English, Spanish, and Korean. So in the class, caregivers receive the Caregiver Help Book, which follows the curriculum and provides additional tools to address specific caregiver needs. Mara, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more. Thank you. There it is. There's the Caregiver Help Book.
The help book. And sorry, I have a chatty dog right now who hears something outside. That's Zeus, who is letting people know what's up. Okay, so we just have a few other updates and announcements. We appreciate you taking the time with us today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. And here on this slide is our contact information. We will be doing the Action Plan Weekly Workshop every Monday from 1:30 to 2 p.m. These sessions will not be recorded, and it's an opportunity to set action plans for yourself and to share with others. And there's the Zoom link to register. And then here's the information for the upcoming Powerful Tools for Caregivers class we have. And depending on when you're viewing this recorded webinar, it may have already started. And if that's the case, please keep an eye out on our website. You can also give us a call and we'll let you know when the next one will be starting up.
Right.
And then if you are watching this very soon, the next presentations that are coming up this Friday, we have The Power of Music and Dementia with Liz Marsh. And then on Friday the 24th, Sue Crane, who's a Finger Lakes Caregiver Institute at Lifespan care manager and educator, She's going to be presenting about dealing with uncertainty. So please join us for that if you are able. All right. As Eve mentioned before, we have daily wellness programming happening called Balancing Our Lives. So that's every weekday, 11 to 11:45, and here's the information to join us for that. Another thing we want people to know is that care managers are still available to help. So if you're needing assistance from a care manager from the Finger Lakes Caregiver Institute at Lifespan, please contact that email and phone number that's up on the screen. And if you're needing assistance from another Lifespan program, you can call our main number at 585-244-8400. We also are doing twice weekly emails for Lifespan caregiver support. And if you're interested in being added to that, it's the FLCI newsletter at lifespanrochester.org. And every Monday and Wednesday morning, we send you email with information that's helpful to you all, and then also letting you know about upcoming events. And we'd love if you all would take this survey to let us know your feedback for this presentation and if you have suggestions for future presentations. And then lastly, if you found this webinar informative, please consider making a gift to Lifespan if that's something you're able to do. And here are a few different ways to do that. We really appreciate you taking the time to look out for yourself and for the people you're caring for and attending this webinar. And thank you for the consideration of making a gift during this very difficult time. All right, so thank you, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions or you need additional support. And there's our information right there. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Via focus.